So hey guys, I'm back with another video, and this video is on getting better, like just in general, and it's such a, I guess, big topic because there are a lot of ways and a lot of perspectives that people try to come at it from. So um, the way that I think about it is the way you get better is you try to pinpoint on things that you aren't doing as good, and then you focus on those things, and as soon as they become things that you no longer need to think about, then you can start learning other stuff. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is, let's say, um, so for me, right, a bad habit that I have is I tend to pick up my mouse too much when I need to turn around and find another target. So for me, wow, that was a really bad swipe. Anyways, so for me, what ends up happening if there's someone behind me, I'll tend to swipe my mouse, pick it up, and then put it back on my mat again, which is really, really bad because I have the option of just shooting this guy and then easily turning around and then just adjusting and killing this guy. You can see how much faster that is. So what I would do is whenever there's someone behind me or whenever I need to flick backwards, I would just focus on do not pick up my mouse, do not pick up my mouse, do not pick up my mouse until it becomes a habit to where I no longer need to think about it, and then that opens up my brain to learn something else because that now is unconscious. Like, I no longer need to consciously think about not picking up my mouse because now it's pretty much like ingrained in my brain not to do that if I need to turn around. So eventually I just get used to just turning around like this, and then now you can think of other things. So for another thing, another example is, let's say you're playing Tracer, or yeah, Tracer would be a good example. So let's say you're very bad at recalling because you always recall too late, right? So you can just sit somewhere and get used to taking a certain amount of damage. Why isn't he hitting me? Hit me, fool. Because a way a lot of people tend to initially learn when to use, or at least getting used to Tracer's recall, is you hear a gasp for air type of thing, and so then that's when you recall to recover your HP. Now you have to do it quickly. As you can see, I didn't really recover my HP, but that's another thing. So like, instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm such a bad Tracer, I need to learn how to aim, I need to learn the map so I can blink properly, so I don't need to look in the direction of where I'm blinking, you instead narrow it down to one thing at a time. So perhaps you're really bad at blinking in a certain direction. So you go in a custom game on, I don't know, Temple of Anubis or whatever map you want to learn, and you just try to emulate as many situations as possible. So like, say there's a entrance here, instead of me fighting an opponent here and being like, oh geez, I'm gonna die, and then having to blink like this, I lose my vision now. I don't know where anything is. I'm looking at a corner of a wall that provides me no information whatsoever. There's nothing here valuable for me to look at. So instead, what you would do if you knew the map, be fighting this guy, and then you see a roadhog come around the corner, and you're really scared that he's going to hook you, so you just blink to the side. You can see how much more useful that is, and I can easily just make a small adjustment, and now I can see people out here, and I can see the entrance here. So if roadhog is chasing me all of a sudden, I go like this, I can easily turn like this, and I can see which entrance he's coming from, and easily make an adjustment to go out one way, or, you know, go out the other way, rather than doing this. Rather than having to go like this, then having to turn around like this and then be like, oh shoot, because by that time, if he's already chasing you, seeing that this game is really fast paced, he could have easily, you know, already been here, and then by the time you choose to make the decision to go this way, he may have already hooked you, and doing things at the very last minute, or very last second, is kind of bad for this game because of the tick rate. So you could blink on your screen, but then you'll still end up getting hooked. So you need to be able to minimize as much wasted time as possible. So another example could be, let's see. Another example could be using Pharah's E, because a lot of Pharahs tend to not use her E ability, which can be used to push people off or to give herself some extra boost in the air. So what you would do is, say you're really good at aiming with Pharah, you can hit targets, you know, not like this, but you can hit targets really well and your aiming's really good, but you just tend not to use her E very often. So what you would do is you'd go into a match, or, you know, a custom or even the training range, although the training range maybe not the best for this kind of thing. And you would just consciously think of, when can I use my E, when can I use my E? Because if you're already good at aiming and everything like that, then you shouldn't have to think about where you should aim because a certain character is moving a certain way. That's already ingrained in your brain, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So now you're just constantly thinking, when can I use my E, when can I use my E? And you're constantly looking to see when it's off cooldown so that you get used to when you can use it. And you just constantly push people off. You use it to give yourself a little bit of boost in the air. Again, you can do that one at a time so that you're used to the different things. So you're flying in the air, you see someone, you push yourself back to get yourself a little bit more speed in the air. You see, I don't know, a Widowmaker, so you use the boost to try and get to cover as quick as possible. And then you move on to pushing people off the side. So now you're always looking for opportunities for people that are very close to cliff so that you can push them off and get these type of kills. And then you'll always be able to do that now because of how much you've practiced it. It'll get to the point where you no longer have to think about if you need to use your E or not, because as soon as the situation appears, you're going to instinctively be like, oh, you're just going to press E, and it's going to be super natural, and it's going to be really easy for you to say, you just press E. It's just something so simple. Why wouldn't you do that type thing? And then you can move on to something else unfair. Maybe your ultis are really bad when you position. So now all of a sudden you're consciously thinking of different scenarios on when you can jump up in the air and ulti. You check the scoreboard or something like that. You see if they switch to Widowmaker. It's like, oh, I haven't seen the enemy team for a long time, so it's very possible they're sitting at a choke point and they're all there. So jumping in the air when there's a Widowmaker is not a smart idea because you're just going to die. So now you move on to consciously thinking about that, and then now you've already improved at this point because now you're using more Pharah. You're using all her abilities. You're pushing people off the side. You're using her E to give yourself a little bit more speed, and you're not even thinking about that anymore because you've trained that. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. You pretty much just practice something to the point where you no longer have to think about it, so that you open up your conscious part of your brain to think about something else. And when that becomes unconscious, then you can decide to learn something else. So for me, I used to play a lot of League of Legends, right? So for me, last hitting, I wasn't the best at last hitting, but it was good enough to the point where I didn't really have to think about it too much. So I could listen to music, I could, talk to someone or something like that. I don't need to concentrate my full attention to last hitting because I've done it so many times and I've practiced it so many times in custom games that it just becomes natural that when the creep is low HP, I can easily I just know the timing on when to last hit the creep based on how much damage it's taking. So now I can go focus on, trading or something like that. When the enemy is in a certain position, I can see that this is a good time to pull off a trade. And this will give me an advantage in lane, put pressure and whatnot. Again, the only reason I'm using League of Legends is because it's a popular game, so I'm sorry for people who don't quite understand this. So now that I've learned how to CS, I can focus on trading, and now I'm already learning. I'm already becoming a better laner because now I'm opening more options to myself for when I'm laning, and I am going to be able to abuse enemies' mistakes and whatnot while still obtaining a really high CS count because I've just practiced CSing so much. So just doing all these things and properly training, I guess, consciously thinking about something and then making it become so ingrained in your brain that it's unconscious is, I think, a really good way to train because it allows you to learn a ton of things, and after doing so much training on each individual thing, then you don't really have to think about it anymore and you can just do it on instinct. The only thing is that you don't want to ever really set it in stone to the point where it's like you have to do it this way, because if something changes in the game, then you need to be able to adjust, and if necessary, then you just start practicing it a different way. Like Pharah, you don't only use her E to push people off. You can also use it to give yourself a little bit more speed in the air. So you also need to take that into consideration. You don't want to just use one thing one way all the time. So that's sort of my take on it. Again, just like the last video I had, this isn't too in-depth. This is just sort of like an introduction to it. I can make a proper video on it and possibly go through like some way of teaching you a certain skill or something like that. So first step is to identify the issue that you're having, whether that be aiming, whether that be tracking, whether that be blinking, a certain distance, not knowing the distance of your blink so that you can jump into people's faces and ulti, you know, like that, you're missing people. That's something I need to work on because my blinks are really bad. Perhaps you don't know the map well enough, so you're always having to look to where you need to go rather than knowing, you know, there's a health pack in this room somewhere, so you can just blink to the side, grab it, and come back out. Makes it a lot easier on yourself, a lot less effort, especially on your wrist. So just identify the problem. Second one is to consciously think about the problem and how you can fix it. So if you're not blinking properly, you're always looking to one direction, the direction that you need to go to blink. This is especially bad for if someone's chasing you. So if someone's chasing you, you can possibly kill them and damage them while you're running away. Oh, that was bad. So you can damage them while looking this way. You can see I can always know what position they're at rather than me trying to kill him and running like this, because now my back is turned towards him and I have no idea where he is. Once I get the health pack, I could be looking here, he could be over here, he could be over here. So yeah. So you identify the problem, you consciously try to think about how you can solve it. Maybe look up a couple YouTube videos or something if you're not sure, or watch a pro player and see how they do this certain action or skill, and then you consciously think about it while you're playing in order to fix it. And as soon as it becomes something that you no longer need to think about, then you pretty much just repeat the process and you do it with another character, or you do it with another skill or a different action. And yeah, that's pretty much what you do. And then you'll be able to do a lot more things without even really thinking about it. So that is it for this video. Before I go, I guess another way you can think of it is like sports, so like volleyball. If I'm really bad at volleying and I don't know how to position my fingers, then I practice volleying for a really long time, and then as soon as I know how to do that all the time, as soon as the ball's coming high up in the air and I know I need to volley it, like me personally, I don't need to think about it, I just do it. So then I can move on to bumping, and then I can move on to spiking, and I could just keep trying to learn all these different skills, and eventually they become so... I've practiced it so many times that it just becomes natural and it's really easy to do, and I can keep opening my conscious mind to think about other things. So yeah. So that's the end of the video. Hope you guys liked it. I can make another kind of video like this. Like I said, telling you about certain skills or certain actions, or certain things that actually pertain to Overwatch, how you can train certain things, and I can also tell you, when you're ready to move on to another skill and whatnot. So hope you guys like this. If you liked it, leave a like and a comment. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike and a comment, and I will see you guys next time.